So I'm down to solar panels today. I wanted to talk to you about something I did. For those of you that used to watch Red Green, I don't know if it's still on. It's never been on in Missouri. But when I lived in Iowa, I watched Red Green. Now I watch little clips of it on YouTube. But he used to say, it's only temporary unless it works. I'm going to explain that in just a minute, but what I have here is I have 12 solar panels. I got 6 panels on one battery charger and 6 panels on another not battery charger, charge controller. So 6 on one, 6 on the other. Both charge controllers go into one set of battery banks. So I think it's 8 batteries. But 8 batteries I've connected, tied them together so it acts like one battery bank. One battery with lots of amps. So I'm going to go into the control room here, and this is what we have. So I was telling you about charge controllers. So there's one charge controller. So the 6 panels over here go into this charge controller, and then another 6 on this side of the panels go into this charge controller. So they go in. You can see here there's a little diagram of the solar. It says solar right up there. And so it goes in those 6 and comes out into the battery bank. It says battery right there. So you can see that I've got my batteries tied together. So this is positive, 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 all the way across, and negative, 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 all the way across. It's this 12-volt system. And I think, I'm not going to try to remember how many amps are in each battery, but so I think there's 8 batteries. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 batteries. So the batteries are then connected to an inverter. And the inverter converts 12-volt DC into 120-volt AC. So this runs the house. It's a 1,000-watt inverter up here. And it runs everything we need, the wash machine, the freezer, my laptop, and charges the phones and just different things. And we've never had a limited amount of power for what we actually use it for in the house. But I also have another inverter here, much bigger one. This is 2,000 watts, and this primarily runs the well. And if we want to do something in the camper, I've hooked the camper up to this one also. And that way we can run something in the camper if we want to. We hardly run the camper anymore, so it's just for the well. And the reason this one is not on at the moment, I can turn it on, is this one uses 2 amps an hour, regardless if it's producing any electric or not. If that green light is on, it's using 2 amps, so it's sucking juice out of the battery. On the other hand, this one only runs 1 amp per hour if there's nothing on it. So half the amount of energy just to run this. But I gotta have this to run the well because this one's not big enough. So the way I have these charge controllers hooked up is, it's gonna be hard to explain, but I'm gonna try my best to explain it. So the solar comes in, 6 panels come into this charge controller, and then the batteries come out of the charge controller. So this wire goes to the positive, to the battery, and this wire behind it goes to the negative. So what I do is I take the positive, for example, I'm not sure if this is an actually true statement, it might be the other one, but regardless, I take the positive and I bring it to the positive side all the way down here. But then I take the negative and I bring it all the way over here. So that way the batteries come together charged as one battery. So if you plug your battery charger into your battery, phone battery, you have a positive and a negative. And each one of those cells are being charged as a group. Well, that's how this is working, as a group. Now I do just the opposite on this one. The positive of this one goes to this side, and the negative goes to this side. So it's a constant circle of energy feeding the batteries. Well, I also do that with the inverter. So the inverter, I have the positive hooked up here. Yeah, positive. And then the negative hooked up over here. So that means it's drawing from the entire battery bank as one battery. Now, if I were to hook the positive here and the negative here, for example, then what would happen is it draws all the energy out of this one battery really quickly, and then all the other batteries have to fill in. So it's kind of flooding in and pulling out. But what ends up happening is if you draw too much energy out of this one battery, you will deplete it before the other batteries have time to charge it up, and eventually that will damage the battery. So that's why you want to connect it over here and here, because you're drawing it from all the batteries simultaneously, not just one and then trying to refill it. Depending on how fast you draw energy out of this, like I said, the other batteries just don't have time to fill it back up. So that's how I had that one hooked up. However, when I bought this inverter, I didn't have wires long enough to do that to this other one. So temporarily, what I did was I hooked a battery, this inverter, to this positive and this negative. So it was drawing, every time I turned the well on, drawing energy out of this battery only as quickly as it possibly could, and the other batteries and the solar panels were trying to charge it back up. And sometimes this thing would squeal, telling me I didn't have enough energy in this battery for the inverter. It would get down to 11.9 volts and the red light would kick on. But then when I come over here and look, it's still at 12 volts, 12.5 volts, whatever it is, and it's doing great, because the rest of the system is operating correctly. It's just that one battery is depleted, so it wasn't working correctly. And I always thought, I did this like 2 years ago, and I always kept telling myself, I need to get a wire longer so I can hook this inverter up to the entire battery bank and not just one individual battery cell. Well, they finally caught up with me, being lazy or not wanting to go buy something, whatever it was. It finally caught up with me, and I'm pretty mad at myself. So for the last, week or so, the batteries have not been charging. And yesterday, or day before yesterday, I ran the generator 24 hours straight because I didn't have enough energy to run the house. So what I do is I run this little battery charger, this little car charger, you can buy them at Walmart, and I hook the generator up to this, and it charges the batteries. That way I can run this little inexpensive generator. It just sips gas, and this battery charger keeps up. The problem is if I try to hook the house up to the generator, when the freezer kicks on, and it uses twice as many amps as it does to run just regular, and the generator isn't big enough to pull that much power. But if I do it this way, where I just charge the battery off the generator, then essentially the inverter's doing all that surge work, not the generator. So I ran the 24 hours until I could figure out what I could do to fix this, because I wasn't sure what was wrong. So yesterday I came out with my voltmeter, my voltmeter, my electric meter, and I kind of thought this was going to be the problem, this battery here, because as we had to build up, the acid comes up and corrodes these. We had to build up a corrosion on this pole right here. So what I did was I took jumper cables and I ran the positive here, the positive here and the positive here on the jumper cables. That bypassed this battery is what I was trying to do, and I disconnected this wire. And as soon as I did, the charge controller was saying the batteries were at 13.6 volts, but when I tested this one by itself, it was at 12.3, and the battery was really warm. not melting warm, but much, it was warmer than my hand, obviously. So I knew this one was the bad battery. So I went ahead and took the jumper cable, ran the negative this side and the negative this side. That way I was completely bypassing this battery, and I just took the battery out. And I took the Walmart and replaced it, got a new battery. You know, it's $120 with the core charge taken off because I had the other battery. And now I'm running fine. So it was just one bad battery. I know a lot of people say use lithium-ion batteries. This had nothing to do with whether it was lithium or lead acid. I prefer lead acid. Again, I know everybody's going to tell me, oh, you're crazy, you need the lithium-ion batteries. I just prefer these. And I'm not going to get in that subject again because I've talked about it a lot on this channel. And there's even no reason to tell me in the comment section that I need to do it because I'm not going to. So I went ahead and replaced this. Then what I did was I bought a cheap pair of jumper cables. So you can see the jumper cables right here. And I went ahead, and this is a cheap way to do it. It's $14. I hooked this inverter up. You can see there's my jumper cable right there to the negative. And here's the jumper cable, the positive on this side. And then the other side is hooked to the inverter. So now I have that complete circle. That'll eliminate all the strain on that one individual battery. I understood, I've always understood that I needed to do that. It's just a better method of operation. If you're using this as one, instead of looking at this battery bank as 8 individual batteries, it is now connected up as one battery. This is just one huge battery. And each one of these black things is a cell of that battery. So there's 8 cells to one battery bank. So inside of each one of these cells has cells of its own. That's a whole different explanation, but that's how you got to look at it. And if you don't treat it that way, you will end up depleting one of your cells, and that's what it did. The mistake wasn't that I didn't know that. The mistake was I just never corrected it. I should have corrected it. And you know, you forget about it and you don't think about it for, you know, several months, and you come down, oh yeah, I need to do that, and then you forget about it. And that's what happened. So now I have it corrected. Now these batteries, one of them is 7 years old. The rest of them are about 5 years old. I guess about 5 years old. Except for this new one here. So, you know, they tell me lead acid, they don't last very long. They've only got so many cycles. The reason I have so many batteries is that way I never get... What they say is you can only have so many cycles of a battery. So many discharges and so many charges of a battery system. So let's say that there's 1,000, I don't know how many there is, 500 cycles in a battery. Well, I never let the battery go through a full cycle. I have so many batteries that during the night, I don't discharge them down to a full cycle. So in the morning when the sun comes back up, then it's getting charged back up. So I never reach a full cycle. So that's how these are lasting so long. Now they say lead acid or lithium-ion batteries should last 10 years, but no one's ever proved that yet. They haven't been around that long. The other thing I do is on cloudy days, you know, people criticize me for running the generator on cloudy days. I would rather run the generator for a couple hours and waste 50 cents of gas than getting these batteries down too low. Now, I was concerned when this battery was bad that my battery bank was getting too low. That's why I ran the generator for 24 hours straight. I didn't want the battery bank getting too low. I knew there was a problem. I just didn't have time to look into what it was. I forget what I was doing during the day, but that night, oh no, I know what I was doing. We filled the water, and I realized I had a problem when we were filling the water. That's what it was. So, well, I wasn't even sure I had a problem at that point. So I ran the generator to charge the batteries up because they looked depleted. So I guess what I should say, I was suspicious that I had a problem. Well, by that evening, I realized, yeah, I do have a problem. The batteries are not charging. So I went ahead and ran it through the night, got up the next morning and did the test. Now, what was interesting was as soon as I disconnected the bad battery from the system, you know, I jumpered it with the jumper cables and completely removed this battery from the system, the other batteries were fully charged. So I never came close to discharging them down to a dangerous level. Although what I was reading clearly indicated I was at a dangerous level, which didn't make any sense to me. I didn't understand how I could be at a dangerous level because the inverter didn't shut off. The inverter's supposed to shut off, I think, at 11.8 volts, and I was down to 11.4 when I was filling the water, and it never shut off. The inverter never shut off. So I knew there was something a little goofed up. So if you'll click this up next box, it'll take you to a video where I was working on something. So if I can inspire you, maybe not use temporary as a permanent solution, so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.